Hey everyone, welcome to the podcast. We got Torry Pope here. I first reached out to Torry because saw a bunch of powered paragliders coming over Sunset Hill, which is the ledge up in Glamis, and then got a hold of him, asked him, "Hey, would you mind coming on the podcast?" And he was so nice to come on and do it. And he has got over 6 years of experience working powered paragliders. So without further ado, welcome, Torry.
Hello, how y'all doing today? Yeah, so I am a paramotor pilot.
Good, good, my man. Good.
Been flying them for about 6 years, and a friend of mine turned me on to Glamis a couple years ago, I guess. And so I first went there probably 2 or 3 years ago. I can't remember exactly. Maybe it was 2 years ago. And I just loved everything about it. I'd always wanted to get down
Okay.
there to fly there because I was really attracted to the sand dunes. There's a big paramotor gathering every year in first weekend in February in Salton Sea, which isn't too far away. And so we usually all gather and go to Salton Sea, and then from Salton Sea, a lot of us head over to Glamis. And the first time I saw it, I was really blown away by the dunes and all the people there, and I just really loved flying there. So I was determined to make it back someday, and I came back this year and just had a really good time. And that's where you saw the video of me flying. And it was just by chance that a bunch of my friends had gone over there that evening, and I didn't really even know everybody was going to be there. And it just turned out really cool because there was about 30 of us flying together, and it was probably one of the most memorable experiences flying paramotors that I've had. I mean, I've never flown with that many people together, all doing this, just having a great time. And all the sandcar guys were there, lined up on the hill, like you said, watching. And we were going over the tops of the dunes and land. And there's a friend of mine, Brad Roper. I'm actually wearing his. He's a instructor. That's the shirt I'm wearing. He's out of southern Utah, St. George area, and he is the one that turned me on to Glamis. And he was there, and he's a really good pilot. He was landing on the top. He had the long streamer behind his paraglider, and he was the one that was flying and landing out on top, and had the smoke, I think, too. A lot of guys are doing the smoke trails, so they have a smoke injection
Super
system.
cool, just doing the touchdown.
Yeah, yeah, he was doing the touch and goes on the dune and then taking off, and I guess there was a couple other people doing it too, but he's the main guy that usually does that over there with the group that I was flying with. Um, but
Okay.
but yeah, it was just a really good time. I think it's just so cool to fly around and give these guys that ride in the sand cars a little taste of what we do for our our recreation, because I believe it's probably the coolest thing you can do. And I don't know. I used to ride motorcycles a lot when I was younger, and I still ride it from time to time, but I've never been to Glamis on a
Yeah.
motorcycle or anything. But I just like flying really close to the guys, over the tops, and then just because you can go anywhere on a paramotor, you're not really limited to trails or things like that. So it's just a lot of freedom. I call it my
Totally.
freedom machine because you could pretty much do whatever you want on it, to a certain extent.
Hey, I totally get it. I think it's super cool. And, it's one of those things where, I remember I've been kind of Glamis like 14 years, 12, 14 years at this point. And I remember coming out there and you'd always see some of the guys just rolling through. And it's just like this thing. You just look up and you're like, well, that's badass. It's pretty
Yeah.
cool. And you don't know anything about it. I've never talked to anyone doing it. And I'm like, you know what? I'd really just love to talk to someone and see about it. So, you've been doing this for 6 years now, right?
Yeah, 6 years. And I started off on
So what initially got you into this?
well, I just knew that I wanted to fly again. I used to be into ultralights, like I said, and so for me, paragliding was the ease of transportation and the way you can pack it down really small was one of the highlights for me because I don't really have a big area to keep like an airplane or like a fixed wing type of airplane or like an ultralight or something like that because they're a lot bigger, kind of like a small airplane. So when I started looking into just started YouTube and stuff and seen there's one guy that comes to mind, Tucker Gott. He's a YouTube personality. He's probably got 1.5 million followers. I think he's one of the bigger paramotor people out there. That everyone that knows paramotoring
Okay.
refers to him because he's kind of like the first guy that really started blowing it up with the YouTube channel. But
Yeah.
so when I started just looking at all the videos and stuff, I noticed that you could put it in a bag. It would break down really small. You could put the unit in the back of a truck. You could stick it in your car. It was just really convenient to be able to have a flying machine that you could take off of practically any short field, a park or a small runway or just I fly from my airport sometimes, but I also fly from the park here, and just me being with a lot of experience, I wouldn't recommend flying from my park in Montana for anybody because it's got a lot of trees around it. And so you kind of got to take off, gain a little altitude, do a loop first, do a circle of the area because you're still below the tree line,
Right.
build some altitude, and then you can take off out of that area.
So
So,
how much runway space do you need to get this thing off the
um,
ground?
I have a trike, which is on wheels. A lot of the friends I fly with are foot launch guys, so they just hold it like a backpack on their back, which is mainly the main way to go. But I could take off in about
Yeah.
60 feet, and I can land in
No shit.
and usually my landings are about half of what my takeoff is, depending. And if the wind
Okay.
is if there's a little headwind, I can take off in like 20 feet. I've taken off in less than that
Really?
before, depending. But I don't like to fly in a lot of wind. That's the main thing that limits these is the weather. You don't want to fly in high winds. You just got to be real cautious of the weather and your surroundings, basically. And you know, like dunes and stuff like that. Anytime you get a mountain and there's winds coming from behind it, you get the rotor off that mountain or an object. You know, any kind of an
Yeah.
object that's in the way of the wind. It's just kind of like looking at a river and you see the swirlies in the river when the water hits a rock. It's the same principle, but it's in the air and it's invisible. So you just got to be aware of what causes rotor and how to handle that because
Right.
it can cause your wings to collapse and all sorts of other things in strong rotor. You know, beach flying is probably and
So,
places like Salton Sea or one of the places where you can fly where there's no rotor because it comes from the water, and when there's water, there's no objects on the water because it's flat, and so you don't get much rotor at all from there. And that's why
right.
people like to fly in those areas. You can fly all day
Okay.
long at the
So you got
beach.
nice, just clear breeze coming straight at you. How many knots of wind are you really looking at to try and take
I don't
off?
like to fly in more than 10, but I have flown in up to 15 to 18 miles an hour at the beach before. And at Salton Sea, I flew in some strong
Really?
wind. It's not as much fun because you get bounced around and everything. So you like to go on usually mornings or evenings when the air is real still. And I call it butter. You get the smooth wind and it's just a real nice flight. You don't get knocked around. You just fly in and you can pretty much go where you want to go and not have to worry about, anything like that. But,
Okay.
but like
You know,
anything, there's some risks
yeah.
involved. It's
Yeah.
not perfectly 100% safe. I mean, it's safer than a lot of things. I'd say it's safer than riding a motorcycle. Um, but, uh,
Yeah. I could agree with that.
it's still dangerous. I've had friends die, in accidents and stuff. And it's usually guys that are taking chances or doing like acro. Like you can do a lot of tricks on a paramotor. And I don't know if you've seen the guys at Glamis that were doing loops and barrel rolls and all that kind of thing. So they are quite acrobatic little machine, depending on what kind of a wing you have, because there's all different levels of wings. Just like sand cars, you got your entry level cars and you got your full blown, LS powered bad boys out there. So it's kind of like that. You got your docile beginner wings, then it goes all up to your fully aerobatic acro wings. So it's just depending on what
You
kind of
know,
style you like.
it's so cool. It's just like any hobby you get into, there's always different tiers
Yeah,
of
for
getting
sure.
into this, and there's like this little barrier of entry getting into it. And, like, obviously, people, like, out in the dunes, you start off with either, like, the smaller four-wheelers, they start working up the 450s,
Yeah.
then you get a side-by-side, then they get a rail, so there's all different tiers of this.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just, I mean, I guess like with any hobby that you get involved with, the more you get into it, the more you want to kind of progress. And it's a lot like that with paramotoring. It seems like a lot of guys they get the slow wings, and the reason I progressed, I have two wings. I have a Charger, which is it's a B. So they start with like an A, B, C, and D wing, and the A wings are very they correct themselves if they have a small collapse or something. They're very stable. They're a little slower, but they're very passively safe. That's what they say. They go on safety. So it's designed they rate them on how much if you have a collapse, how quick it will come back out on its own and correct itself without any input from the pilot. Because you have two toggles on each.
Okay,
So how you steer it and everything is you have a toggle in each hand, and then one hand you hold the throttle too. And then so when you steer,
okay.
you pull a toggle and it goes that direction. It deflects that side of the wing and it creates drag. And so the other side of the wing doesn't have drag, and so it wants to naturally fly ahead of the other side. And that's how it steers. It's really
So you pull
simple.
from the left, and then it'll
To the
turn you to the
left, yeah,
left?
it'll turn left. You pull left, turn left, and so when you come in for a landing, you flare it, kind of like a skydiver chute where they pull both handles at the same time and create a flare. It's kind of the same principle. You come in for a landing, and you start flaring before you get to the ground, and it slows you down, and then you just land softly. So a lot of these guys do a swoop landing where you come in really fast because you want to exchange energy. The more energy you come in with, naturally you can do a better flare and it lasts longer and it kind of slows you down, but it takes longer to do it. But in the end, it gives you a nice smooth uh, transition to a flare and you can run it
How
out.
long did it take you to get that flare down? That seems like the trickiest
Yeah,
part of
that is. I
this.
think it is the trickiest thing. With me on wheels, I mean, it didn't really feel like my first landing was perfect on when I was self training, and it did take me a little time to get to that point. I had some equipment that I bought that was the wrong size, and I had an engine, and so by the time I had sorted everything out and got the right gear that was going to work for me, my first flight was actually really good. I took off really nice. My landing was perfect, And, yeah, it's just, you just gotta kinda feel it. When I was doing my ultralight training, my instructor said I was a natural pilot, so I just kinda had a feel for what I needed to do, and after watching a lot of videos and stuff and I kited a lot, I practiced a lot, and I actually was doing free flight before I did motorized flight. I would go out to these hills and just jump off with the wing and just glide with it without a motor. And at first, I thought that's the route I was
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
take, but, being in Montana, there's not a lot of sites that you can fly from free fly because you either gotta have ridge lift or you gotta have thermals,
Okay.
off a mountain you can jump from and fly. So it just was unrealistic to try to do it from here, and so after hiking and doing that a number of times and getting tired of hiking up these huge hills to jump off and fly for a few minutes, I just decided I would go with a motor, and, I'm pretty crafty. I
No, I
actually
totally
built.
get it, man. I mean, hell, if you don't have the
Yeah.
wind, you need to just make your own and get where you wanna go.
Yeah, and then so I actually built my own trike that I fly. So you can, you get the motors, and then a lot of these guys sell trikes that you can mount these motors on for guys that don't have like me, I have kind of a messed up back from just doing a lot of snowboarding over the years and motocross and stuff, so as I get older, I just
Sure.
realized I didn't wanna try to run with my legs and deal with all the weight on my back, so I built a trike, and you basically just sit in it. That's kinda what I'm sitting in right now, actually. I'm in my living room, and I'm sitting in my motor with my trike on the ground here.
Oh, yeah, man.
So,
That's super cool.
yeah, you just basically sit in it like a chair, like a lawn chair,
Yeah.
and the straps go over your shoulders, and you have like 5 buckles that go around your legs, and they go around your chest and your arms and everything, and you strap in. And so that way I just come in and I just
Dude, that
land
is
on wheels. I come in on power a little bit. I get to a certain point, I just
yeah.
kinda let off on power and glide down to where I know I'm gonna get close to about 3 or 4 feet from the ground. I start my flare and then just it touches down pretty good. So,
Dude, that is great, man. It's like, I love it. Like, everyone's got their hobbies and everyone's an adrenaline junkie and wants to do something new, and
yeah.
this is definitely one of those things I could see myself getting into, because I take a lot of video, because I started Glamis Coffee earlier or later last year.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm always trying to get video to help advertise and push stuff with it. And it's always one of those things I'm like, damn, if I could get, I got 2 drones that I've been using to just track me as I go through. And I was
Right.
thinking, man, if I had one of those, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, they do actually have some stuff
But
like that. There's a few different ways. I usually carry a GoPro most flights with me on my helmet. They have a thing, it's called a chase cam too. That basically it's like a big badminton birdie that has a GoPro on the front of it, and you hook it to a line behind your paramotor. You hook it on your wing, and it follows you, and it just
yeah,
kind of flies behind you, and it videos everything from that kind of
that's
perspective.
awesome.
And those 2 flights that I got in Glamis this year actually was the first time I actually got to use an Insta360 that I got. So there was a guy down there selling one really
I
cheap, and
got
I was
one.
able to pick one up and, got an arm from it from another pilot that just gave it to me for just being cool, and I was able to actually fly with an Insta for the first time at Glamis and got some pretty cool footage. I haven't quite edited it yet. That's another thing I gotta start learning to do better, but, at least I got some cool footage. It's those things blew me away on how cool they are.
They're so cool and so versatile. I have an Insta and a buddy of mine, um, hell, you probably saw it. There's this accident I had probably about a month ago. And the only reason we're able to catch this accident, he had a 360 on his bike and I had one
Right.
on mine.
Yeah,
And, the last thing you ever wanna do is have an accident, but when
for
you do, it
sure.
really captures it very well.
It does, it does. I noticed, like, my buddy has an Insta before I got mine, and a lot of the time, some of us paramotor guys, we get together, and some of the good pilots, you gotta trust your friends, but we'll go together, we'll bump wingtips while we're flying, and so because it's a
Yeah,
soft wing, so the wings kinda tuck together, the tips kinda curl in and they touch together, and so I didn't have it. I only had a GoPro, but my buddy behind me, he had the Insta360, so he actually moved it around and showed me the view of us touching our wingtips together because we were kinda flying behind him a little bit, and so he sent me that video
yeah.
after he took it, and I was like, "That's super cool. I need to figure out a way to get do stuff like that." So, I was pretty stoked when I found one for a good
It is.
price.
It's so badass, and it's like one of these things when you're doing a hobby like this, you gotta have a camera with it because you never know what can happen.
Exactly.
You might just catch something, and with those 360s, something could happen behind you and you have no clue. You'll get
Right,
back to
yeah, it's a
camp
good
and
way to
someone will talk
analyze
about
stuff
it and you
too
got it.
because you can see your wing. I mean, it's so awesome the perspective you can get with that thing because you can look up at your wing and see if something's weird's going on there, or you can look back at your buddies or something on your equipment. If you have like something weird happen, you can catch it. I've had a couple mishaps in my flying career. One time I was
Oh, yeah.
flying over in St. George, Utah, with the guy that has the shirt here, Southern Utah Paramotor. He had an event there, and I was on a new motor I was trying out, and it stalled out on me about 700 feet. It was a brand new motor. It wasn't tuned correctly, and it ended up dying on me. And I started to make my landing choice, and I just made a poor decision. I mean, it was just I wasn't really scared or nervous, but I should have went right and I went left, and it ended up just being more sagebrush, and it got really thick. And I'm like, okay. And I had a GoPro going on at the time, and so the whole
Yeah.
thing was on video, and I kind of saw it was just weird. And ended up crashing into the sagebrush, and it looked like I got hurt really bad. But honestly, when I went down, I knew I was going to hit the ground. I just tucked my head down and just kind of rolled with it, and I didn't get hurt at all. The
Yeah.
machine that I'm still flying today was got the hoop got all bent, but it's stainless steel, so I was able to. I had my phone with me and I called some buddies and they all came out with their electric bikes and their little dirt bike thing, and we all took everything apart, and one guy took part of it, the other guy took the other part of it, and I packed my wing in a bag and I carried that back to camp, about another 20-minute walk or so back. And I ended up taking it all apart, took the engine off the frame and got some ratchet straps and hooked it to a guy's bumper and just ratchet strapped it all back straight again and put it back together and flew for the rest of the weekend with it. So,
Hell yeah, man. That's
but
some trailside ingenuity right there.
yeah,
Love
you
it.
gotta, when you're out in the middle of nowhere and you wanna still have some fun, sometimes you just make things happen. So that was one of those
Yeah.
times. But, I've got kind of a lot of my friends that we fly with, it's called the Pacific Northwest Crew, and we all of us guys, we're all good friends, and we all fly paramotors, and we all end up going to these events together, like, or we come from different areas, we all meet together at these events and fly. And so there's a lot of good
Yeah.
camaraderie between all of us and stuff. And I'm kind of known for sometimes having a little accident and messing up my gear right off the bat, and then and kind of screwing myself for the rest of the trips. It's happened more than once. But
I
this
know the
trip, everyone was
feeling.
rooting for me. Like,
I
oh,
know
it's a
the
good thing.
feeling.
I had a couple little things go wrong, but I fixed them, and they're like, good. He's like, you're having a great time. You're not out. You're not down and out. Your machine's still flying. You're still doing good. Because sometimes I'll break like a couple
Yeah.
I always carry a spare propeller, and sometimes you break two in a row, and then you got no prop to fly with. Or I think this
Right.
year, what happened when I was at Salton Sea, I had a shoot. What happened? Oh, my motor. One of my rubber. There's so the mufflers hooked together with some rubber um, little bushing things that have like little standoffs on them, and you could screw your. So it's basically absorbs energy. It's just a shock, and it holds the muffler in place.
Sure.
But one of those separated, so I didn't have that. And and then I was flying, and I just put on a new cylinder and head probably, a month or so before this trip. And I didn't lock tight the studs on the exhaust side. So I'm flying along, and all of a sudden my engine gets really loud. I'm like, what's going on here? This thing does not sound normal. And so I just
Yeah.
started making it back to the landing area. Luckily, I wasn't too far away from it. By the time I'd landed, my muffler had completely separated the head, the exhaust manifold had separated from the head. And one stud was still holding it kind of together because it couldn't back out because it bottomed out on the flange, and it wouldn't allow it to back out anymore. So it kind of saved it, kind of helped it
Yeah.
from falling apart. But there was a guy down the way there, and he had the parts I needed and sold me a couple things for $5. I'm like, no way, dude, that's way too cheap. But he's like, oh, it's cool, man. You just take it. And so I got a gasket and a couple studs and was able to put it all back together. And I didn't have any other more problems for the rest of the trip. So that's pretty cool.
Hey,
So
that's awesome,
just
man.
stay
I've had
flying.
yeah. No, totally. I've had incidents like that myself where, you think you did all the maintenance, you thought you had everything covered, and then there's always something that's not working right. It's also a good reason to have people with you with the same type of
Yeah.
equipment because they can help you fix it or they may have extras.
Yeah, I do fly a different so the motor I fly, I went back to after that I had that crash in Utah. I sold that motor because it died a second time on me on that same trip, and I was actually hired that time, and it was almost at night, and everybody was off-roading. It was at Sand Hollow, so you probably heard of that place because it's an off-road
Oh,
place
yeah.
too.
Yeah. I've
So
been
we were
through there. I
flying right
wanna
by
go
Sand
back and
Hollow,
spend more time.
and there was the big ledge on the side where everybody parks their off-road rigs up there, and it was getting to be evening time, all the
By that
lights are
little
on up
lake.
there and everybody, so I was like, "I'm gonna fly up to the ledge on Sand Hollow and just kinda do a flyby, real quick, and then head back," because it was getting kinda dark, and I had a really bright strobe on my machine at the time, so it was pretty visible and everything, and I felt I was fine. I got about 1,200 feet, and it died again, but I had enough altitude that time that I was able to head straight back to the landing area, and I made it with altitude to spare and everything, and came in all quiet, my strobe's flashing, and or the who's that, and come in all silent, but after that trip, I had my old motor still, and I just put that motor back on there, and I haven't had a single I never in 3 years of flying this motor, it's never died in flight on me ever until I was flying in Moses Lake this summer, and I'd leaned out my mixture a little too much. So when you go to different altitudes, you got to kind of check your carb and adjust for altitude. Make sure it's not too rich or
Sure.
too lean. Well, I was a little too lean, and I started doing a really high altitude climb, and I held it full throttle for quite a while, and all of a sudden just died. I'm like, okay. I kind of knew right away when it did it because I forgot to check my mix, and so I was able to
Sure.
land it
So for,
okay, and yeah,
so for
got
one of these, would you have do, people have, like, carbureted, or is it or fuel injected instead of
They do
carbureted?
have so interesting thing, they just developed some fuel injection systems for these things, but they're super expensive. It's like a $4,000 option, just to go with the fuel injected motor on the Vitarazi, which is the one that has it. I don't know if anybody else actually has that system, which I think it should be not
Okay.
too far in the future because all these dirt bikes and everybody have fuel injection. So I'm just wondering, it's only going to be a
Sure.
matter of time before somebody starts really using it, as an option
Yeah,
without
you would
having a
think
huge
with all the
price mark.
elevation
It's
changes,
just a
you'd
huge
want
price
that.
markup on it. But a friend of mine flies with one and they are really efficient. But the thing is, they don't adjust for altitude, which I thought was a really bad
Oh,
drawback to it because, like all the snowmobiles you see that are fuel injected, that's the one cool thing about it is you don't got to stop and change your jets and all that stuff. They just automatically
right.
compensate for the altitude, which is I thought, since you're flying and you're going up and down, why don't they do that? It just seems really, really weird to me that they haven't done it yet. But because my friend, I asked him a lot of questions about it because he had it and he likes it, but he actually had to have it tuned before it even worked properly. And I was like, man, that's just crazy. It should have a
Right.
map. It should have a tune on it where you could change it and you should be able to adjust it, or it should self
Really, it should have
adjust.
been
And
so much
so,
easier.
yeah, I just so
Yeah, because
between the
I had a 450 that was fuel injected. It worked great, and
yeah,
then I got a Banshee, and, then I had like an LT 500 where it's 2 stroke, so I
right,
took it up to Colorado, now I'm up at 10,000 feet elevation, you're always
exactly.
rejetting everything.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I think it's just a matter of time. I think it's because they're the first ones doing it. They just have to put their little parameters on it, and I don't know. I just think it's for how much they're asking extra for it. To me, it's just not like cost effective to do that. I would rather just stick with the carburetor but they are really fuel efficient, which is
sure.
really nice. That's one good thing about them because we always want to fly farther. We always want to go on a longer adventure somewhere. So having the fuel
Yeah.
injection with the awesome fuel burn is really nice. I think they burn like 2 to 3 liters an hour, and like a carburetor usually is like 4 to 6 liters an hour. So it's quite a
Okay.
big difference on the fuel economy for sure.
Yeah, I could see that. So, obviously, weight is a big issue,
Yeah, for sure.
with it. How do you conserve weight down, and what how do you pick what you're gonna take as opposed to what you don't?
Well, I've got my unit. I fly with the Trike, so that already adds like an extra 35 pounds to the unit that I fly already. Um, I just try to, not carry. I mean, actually, they do carry quite a bit of weight. I mean, if you're just a really big guy, because some of these guys that fly are pretty heavy, so the wing is really the main
Sure.
thing in the weight. How big a wing you fly with is kind of decides on how much weight you can carry. I fly with a 28-meter wing, and I also have a 25-meter wing, and the 25-meter wing is like my sport wing. It's designed; it can carry a more weight, but it makes it a lot more sporty. Like it's just a lot more. I don't know how to describe it. It
Okay,
turns
so that
quicker.
makes
It's
sense.
just it's more
So the bigger
it's
the wing.
yeah.
Yeah,
The bigger wings carry more weight, but they're just a little more docile. They don't depending on what you're flying, you know? So, I know there's
right.
a couple trike pilots that I know that actually fly with the trike that do aerobatics. They do loops and the barrel rolls and all that stuff. I'm not probably ever gonna do anything like that, but a lot of the guys still do. But yeah,
So I
you just
guess you could
basically
compare
wanna
this
try to keep
in kind of a
everything.
way like surfboards, huh?
Yeah, you wanna keep everything kind of, lightweight as you can. It definitely helps with the drag and the takeoff, When I take off with the full tank of gas, I can definitely tell, and density altitude is a huge thing. So, when I'm flying in Glamis, we're, like, really low to sea level, and Salton Sea is actually 200 feet below sea level, so you can fly fully loaded with a full tank of gas, with a smaller wing, and have no problem taking off. Then you go to Salt Lake you go to Utah, Southern Utah, and all of a sudden you're flying at 5,000 feet, density altitude, the air's thinner, it takes a lot longer to take
Yeah.
off. If you have a lot more weight, it's just the climbs are really slow, so you just got to kind of fly a different kind of style. Just give yourself more room. Know that you're going to have, a slower climb out if you're flying around obstacles and things like that. So just things to be aware of. I'm here in Montana. I'm at 2,600, so it's not too bad. I fly out of the airport, and my climb's pretty decent. It's pretty cool. It's a beautiful area. I've got like 7,000-foot mountain peaks about 5 miles right from my airport right here. It's kind of nestled in a valley. So there's some real high, the Cabinet Mountains are on one side. There's a big range right there that go about 7 or 8 lakes nestled into the mountains up there, and then there's some all kinds of hiking trails and stuff, and I've flown to them in my
Oh,
paramotor a
yeah.
couple of times. It's kinda freaky, though, when you get up really high to some big mountains, you just really gotta be really cautious with the way the winds work up there and stuff. So but it's
Totally.
beautiful. You get up
So,
there, it's
Tori,
not
what part of Montana are you in?
I'm in the northwest corner, so I'm kind of up about 50 miles from Canada and about 45 miles next to Idaho there. So it's just the real beautiful rivers and mountains and pine trees. There's a lot of trees here. So that's another thing
Yeah,
about flying here too, is you just got to be really cautious about having places to land if you have a problem. And that's why I like my motor so
totally.
much because I've never had an issue. Not going to say it's never going to just never let me down, but it's been real reliable for me and I put a lot of trust into it. So but you always gotta have that thought in the back of your mind. If the engine does die, where can I land type of thing. So
Sure.
thankfully, I've never
Yeah,
really had
it's
any
funny, man,
problems, and the only times I've actually had a couple problems with my other unit, I have another unit, it's a little older that I started flying with, I still have it, but I don't really fly it much. Had a couple of issues with that, and both times I was really close to the airport, and then one time the fuel line, I just changed the fuel line and it was too close to the exhaust and it melted it a little bit, and the other time, I can't remember what happened. They were both fuel related, and both times I was able to land at the airport really easy and it was not a big issue, so but yeah, but there is
that's
those
good. So,
times where
obviously, people getting into this need to be pretty handy.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Um, let me ask you, for someone who is brand new, wanting to get into this,
Right.
what do you think is the best, um, direction to go? Like, hey, what type of machine, what type
I
of,
would firstly, I would
I guess
recommend just finding an instructor that's close to you, and then go and talking to them, and then going with them. A lot of these instructors will provide equipment for you to train on, and then
yeah,
you know, every person's different with what they wanna do in the sport, and their weight and their weight range and, you know, what kind of flying they wanna do, what kind of wing they wanna use, and so, they a lot of people just recommend find an instructor, they'll give you more of a direction to go in, and they'll get you set up in the right gear, um, you know, because it varies, you can get like me, I was, determined to train myself, so I knew I wasn't gonna go that route, but, I still made mistakes, and it took me a lot longer to get in the air as opposed to somebody that would just go to an instructor. Usually, it's about 2 weeks. You go to, you know, 10 days or something like that. You'll go find your instructor. They'll have a window of good weather. You'll go in there and you'll practice the fundamentals. You'll learn how to kite the wing, and that's the main thing. If you're gonna be a foot launch pilot, you wanna really do a lot of kiting, which is basically just going out when the wind is a little stronger, and, you have a harness on, you have the wing attached to it. It just you just basically pull the wing up and practice. You know, if you have a good breeze going like 7 to 10 miles an hour, it'll keep the wing flying above you, and you just basically use the brake controls to control it, to keep it above, to keep it overhead, and you want to be able to keep it, you know, pull it up and then be able to turn around, transition, and then run forward with the wing while it's still in the air, and doing the kiting really, you know, builds those skills. With the trike
sure,
pilot, it's a little different. I did do a lot of kiting, you know, just to get proficient at doing that. But in a trike situation, you want to basically lay out the wing behind you, in a perfect layout. So when you give it gas and you go forward, the momentum of the thrust of the trike pulls the wing up, and the layout makes sure that the wing comes up straight and true. See, if you're on a when you're in, with you have a backpack model when you're foot launching, you can adjust your position by you know, adjusting sideways. You can you know, jog to the side, right or left to get, because you want to stay centered under the wing. So if you when you're on a
yeah,
foot launch, you can do that. You can adjust yourself by just stepping side to side. But when you're in a trike, you can't do that. You just got to go straight forward. So you basically you get it straight up and you just look at your wing. You do it by feel. A lot of guys have a mirror sitting in front of them so they can see the wing when it comes up. I used to do that, but now I'm to the point where I can just feel it when it comes up. I can feel if it's left or right, and I just adjust it with with my toggles. You know, if it's light right, I pull left. If it's left, I pull right. Get it sitting above me and go. And I'm kind of a little different than some of these other pilots. I've always flown with guys that are foot launch guys most of the time, and so they take off at a lot of tight areas, and so I can usually take
yeah,
off in a real tight spot with my truck. I'm just like a lot of these guys get up on a trike and they taxi it, so they're good. They wing up ahead of them. They kind of roll out, you know, on this and make sure the wing's straight, and they taxi for a while. I'm usually just full throttle right out the gate. You know, make sure my wing's straight. I punch it, I get it straight up, and I'm out. I get out as fast as I can, and I've got out of some real tight fields like that. And you
oh,
know,
yeah.
I've never really had any bad problems. I think I've had a couple missed launches where, you know, definitely had some launches where the wing doesn't come up perfect, you know, and then you got to reset and set it up again and try it again. But most of the time, I get it done in the first try. You know, after flying for some time, you know, I'm pretty good at it. So it's pretty cool. People watch
Dude,
me
that
take off and they're like, "Damn, dude, you're just like a one and done out of here guy." You know, I'm like, "Yeah, well, I gotta compete with you I gotta compete with you foot launch guys. You guys can take off in, you know, 10, 20 feet, and I gotta take off in as little spot as I can." There's been some spots where I've taken off and it had some obstacles I had to clear, and I've cleared them by not very much, you know, and I'm thinking, man, if I didn't have make some lift or if something would have went wrong, it could have been a bad deal. But I've been lucky that I've
yeah.
cleared some big rocks and some obstacles by just a few feet, you know, and got out of the tight launch area that I was taking off out of. But it's fun too. A lot of these guys, what we're starting to do is we call it paracamping. So we load camp gear up on our paramotors and we go fly somewhere. We camp out, pitch a tent, stay overnight,
Dude,
and then fly back. So
that's super cool, man.
yeah,
So, for a place like Glamis, obviously, you guys coming out there, and I remember you said you took off from Wash 17.
yeah, that's where I was camping out in Wash 17.
Did you have a whole group there with you, or was it just
There
you by
was well, I
yourself?
just went there by myself. When I left Salton Sea, I didn't know if anybody was gonna be at Glamis. I figured they'd show up there or there might be a few people there. So I there was one guy that was from Texas that was at Wash 17. I just saw his windsock up there, so I knew it was a pilot. And so I just pulled in there, and, he ended up being from Texas, and he was flying out of that place. And so and then another friend of mine, followed me over there. So there was 2 of us and there's 3 of us, but then I guess a bunch of other pilots had showed up, and I guess they're all at Wash 3. So a bunch of and there were some other pilots that I don't know, I guess. They were already there. And so some
Okay,
when my other friends from Salton Sea, the Southern Utah Paramotor crew, they came out there. I guess they all just ended up camping at Wash 3 with all those guys. And so they all took off
cool.
over there, and it was just a chance thing. I didn't know they were even there. Me and my buddy took off. We started flying. It was that Friday evening, and we went it over to the big dunes. I guess Oldsmobile Hill and that Sunset Ridge or whatever it is. We just ended up over there because we saw a bunch of guys parked there, and then I was like, "There's a bunch of wings."
Yeah,
So I just saw all the wings, and so we just all kind of joined together, and it just turned into a really awesome flight. Man, it was super memorable, and I have it on my 360. I just gotta edit that and get some video up. But, it was kinda neat too because that next morning, on Saturday morning, I got up for the early morning, and I usually like to drive by the I don't know what road it is, but it's the road where all the guys park with all their RVs and all the real fancy sand rail guys, and there's just a
so what you have out there is you have Wash Road and you have Gecko Road.
yeah, it was Gecko
So the
Road then.
actual paved road,
Yeah.
and then you have the Wash Road.
So me and my buddy flew Gecko Road on Saturday morning, about 8 o'clock or so. And I remember flying like
Yeah,
right down that road, like right down the middle of it. And there's people jogging and people out doing, getting up early and stuff. And there was a bunch of people. Everyone was really stoked. I usually like flying real low to the ground, but just like kind of next to everybody's little trailers going by there out on the sand side. But there was one point where they
yeah,
had all these super high end rigs, man. I could tell they were high dollar, and they're all parked, and all they had was just like a little spot where the road was in between them. And I flew right down between that thing, right in between everybody's RVs, right on the road there. I couldn't get all the way down in it because, it wasn't super wide and my wing's fairly big. So,
yeah.
but I got my trike like
So
down in
what's cool over
between
there,
all that stuff. It was pretty cool. Um,
yeah, so they, I think over to, like, pad 4, that's where, like, a lot of the Funkos are. That's where you got
yeah.
the real high end,
Yeah. They had some fancy
badass
looking,
cars.
yeah, those were nice
Oh,
looking
yeah.
cars.
So they just had the Funco Regatta out there last weekend,
Okay.
and that they had a ton of them out there.
Th-
But yeah, it was a really cool event that Funco put on. So yeah, that was probably the big event where you had most of the high end cars out there.
Yeah. Those things look like they cost a grip, man. I can't imagine what they cost, but they look like they were up there in price.
Oh, I mean, some of those Funkos, they got. I mean, you're looking around 100, 200 grand
That's what I
for some of those
figured. I
cars.
figured those were the high roller guys. I could tell by the rigs they were driving and the cars they had. And it's like, damn, dude. But you know what?
Yeah.
In the end, I think I'm still having more fun.
Hey, you know what? And that's what it's all about. You could have somebody out there with a 3,000 or a $1,000 rig, not doing much, but all you need is some speed, man, and you'll have
Yeah.
a good time.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much.
And it seems like when I'm flying out there, especially if I'm flying over some guys that are riding their dirt bikes or whatever they're driving, side by sides or a dune buggy or anything, and they see us come along in those paramotors. It's just like they just always want to look at them. It seems like they just always think it's the coolest thing. And I just like to, I
Yeah,
don't know, I'm not really a big show off, but maybe I am, but I just still like to just like check this out. And they like going on these little trails, and my favorite thing is like when they're parked on a cliff and they're just like all standing there, I'll fly right by them like eyeball level and just keep going just straight off the cliff, and it's just like, yeah, I can go where you can't go. You know what I mean? And it's just super cool.
dude, that's what's super cool about it. I mean, I love that stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm in the Navy. I'm getting ready to retire here pretty
Okay.
soon. But I went through airborne school with the Army,
All right.
and so all my experience was static line. So a lot different. So I've done that with the Army, and then I'm in the Navy, and then I did
Yeah, my
5
dad was
more
in the Navy.
jumps.
He was out of San Diego.
Okay.
He was on the
Yeah,
USS
yeah. So,
Hancock
yeah, I was down in San
back in the
Diego.
day.
That's where I'm at.
I
Well,
was
yeah,
actually
man.
named
So
after
it's like I
Torrey Pi
got a little
that's
bit of
a
experience
little
with
bit of info
crawling out
for you.
of a
I was
plane.
I was named after the Torrey Pines out there. That's where my folks met, and, so my mom wanted a unique name for me, and they were hanging out around the Torrey Pines area, and she just kinda took the E out of it, and that's how I got my name.
That's super cool, man.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was born in
It's funny,
Escondido.
like, when I noticed your name, I have one friend named Tori, and he's the
Yeah.
only person I've ever known
Mostly
named it.
girls, it seems
So,
like. I've met a few people named Torrey, but not a lot of guys. And they're out there, but it's an uncommon name, so
yeah, totally. I mean, there's a million Bobbies out there, so there's
or
nothing
is it
unique
like
about
Robert,
mine.
just Bobby for short?
Yeah, yeah, it's Robert, but Bobby for short.
Yeah.
Um, but no, man, when I see you guys doing that, I love it. It's like after me jumping out of a few planes, I'm like, you know what? It's super fun. I'd love to do more of it. When I see you guys out there doing that, I'm
Yeah.
like, how badass. And, my buddy's kid, Trent, he was out there and he had to go back. So we're over at Oldsmobile Hill, and he went back, and then we went from Oldsmobile over to the Ledge, which is the sunset spot you guys saw
Yeah,
us at.
yeah.
Um, so he was on his dirt bike, him and his brother coming back, and he said, "Hey man, someone was on my ass."
Yeah, there was a couple guys
Um,
that like to do that. I don't know if it was from
I
my it
think
was
it's
probably from the
cool.
Brad Roper crew because I know there's a couple guys that were just like they get right low over those guys and just hang right with them, you know, and those paramotors are very, very, maneuverable. Like, you wouldn't believe how
Yeah,
like, if you've ever been over to Ocatella Wells and over in that area, they got the wash area
yeah.
over there. We can get down on those washes and just carve those washes, like, stay right with them the whole time. It's pretty cool.
Hey, Tori, you know what I think would be super cool is if we organized a ride. If we got a bunch of the paragliders and you get a whole group of dudes just carving through the dunes, and you could get, basically like with me and my 360 and all my stuff, we could capture all of it around us, and then you
Yeah.
guys from the top capture from below. You could make one of the coolest videos ever
That
from
would
that.
be super sweet, you know? I think if I talk, because we usually come down to that area around the same time. It's usually February when we make the trip down there,
Yeah,
and then maybe I could talk to the guys at Southern Utah Paramotor and maybe just say, "Hey, I got on the podcast there with the guys, and they wanna organize, you know, a dune car with a paramotor crew, like, of a fly ride type thing." I bet he'd totally be down with something like that. 'Cause, I mean,
yeah.
it's just
I
good
mean, I
it's
would
good
love it. I'm gonna
publicity
be
for
out there the
everybody. It's
next 2
good
weekends.
for him because 'cause he's got a you know, he sells paramotors, he sells wings, he's an instructor, and I mean, it's good,
Okay.
you know, good publicity for him and you guys all at the same time, you know, everyone could get I think it'd be a win-win for everybody on something like that.
Yeah, totally, and we'll
And it's
post this
fun, you
stuff
know, on
up
top of it all, it's
everywhere.
just a blast. You know, maybe stop, maybe organize
Yeah.
some kind of a lunch at the end of it or something like that or something cool.
Yeah, right. It's such a good time, man, and it's like everyone has their hobbies, and it's all
Yeah.
for the same thing. I mean, like for us, it's all about, hey, Glamis is home for us. It's just
Right.
a beautiful spot, and we love everything that everyone's doing within it. It's with a big community, so no one should feel like they're outside of it in any way.
No, yeah.
So yeah,
I don't know, I love the mountains and the trees and the rivers and everything we have in Montana, it's really green and just beautiful, but I still love the desert too, I have, like, a soft spot for the desert, I just always am attracted to that barren type of scenery, and I mean, I just like to explore it, and it's different for me, you know, I
totally.
do love coming home when I'm done and everything, but I do love to get down there and check out the desert and the dunes and that type of landscape as well, so it's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
I absolutely love it. Yeah, because I came out here when I got stationed in San Diego, like, 14 years ago. I think it was, like, 12 anyway, I gotta look it up. But anyway, it's a while ago.
Yeah, yeah,
First started coming out here because I used to I had quads and everything else. I've been big into off-roading, so I was in Colorado for the last 3 years
yeah.
and absolutely loved it. Went all over it, San Juan Mountains. Colorado is, like, one of my favorite places. But spent a lot of time in Moab, went through St. George, didn't spend enough time in St. George.
Yeah, St. George is a
Um
cool little place.
yeah, but I'm from Pacific Northwest, so I'm from Washington State originally,
Okay.
and North Carolina, I live there. So I'm from all over the
What part
country,
of
man.
Washington? I got a lot of friends there.
So Yelm, Washington,
Oh, I know where Yelm is. Yeah,
Rainier,
my friend
Scotland.
lives over by, he lives in Bonnie Lake over there by Auburn, and he's a paramotor pilot I
Yeah.
fly with a lot, and then I've got and I grew up in Spokane for a little while when I was a kid, and so I'm
Oh,
pretty familiar
nice.
with Spokane area, but I like to fly out at Moses Lake a
Yeah,
lot.
my
That's
brother
another
lives
one that
in
we
Graham,
have is
works in Seattle.
kind of a smaller dune area, the Moses Lake dunes, the potholes, but there's a lake. The lake out there is just beautiful, and it's got all those holes that are joined together with trails. And so that's another one we do at the end of summer flying. We all meet up at Moses Lake and fly there, like in September, third
Oh,
week in
yeah.
September. So it's a good time.
So let me ask you, how much restrictions do you have on yourself for where you
There are
can
some
actually fly these?
restrictions like airspace and stuff. So you can fly up to 18,000 feet, which I've never done personally. That's crazy high.
Need
But there are
oxygen for that?
It's not required, but I mean, if you stay up there for any amount of time, probably a good idea. The guys that have done some altitude flying that do like to set records and try to do real high flights, they have taken some oxygen. Then I've known of other guys
Sure.
that have done it, they have not taken oxygen and been okay, but they had a monitor, and were checking their levels and stuff to make sure they were still okay. Um, but you want to make sure that you're flying in. I think it's D and E airspace. I mean, you can't fly like around big airports and cities. You're not supposed to fly over like groups of people and like stuff like that. So basically, there's not a lot of restrictions. It's called FAR 103, and that's just the ultralight. So it has to be under 254 pounds, carry less than 5 gallons of gas, or up to 5 gallons of gas, and then can't fly more than like 60 miles an hour straight and level or something like that. And then, there are some guidelines and stuff. Um, I know a lot of guys that fly and mostly stays within regulations. There's other guys that, they kind of so they do some stuff that's, it just depends on where you're flying at. I fly in Libya. I'm the only guy around here that flies it. When people see me flying, they're all excited to see me. Everyone's waving at me. I'll fly. I don't fly like over the
Yeah.
downtown per se because it's a small community. Like we got like 6,000 people here. So, but there are some outskirts that I kind of fly around the outskirt areas, along the railroad tracks and around the rural areas. There are some houses that I fly over, but I stay, pretty much into the guidelines of the flight, what you're supposed to do. Um, but yeah, it's a pretty open fly. You can't fly after dark, so you can fly 30 minutes before sunset and 30 minutes after if you have a strobe. So you can't fly at night and stuff
Okay.
like that. Um, but yeah,
Makes
overall, it's a
sense.
pretty free. I mean, you don't need a license to fly one. You don't need a medical certificate to fly one. You don't have to register your aircraft or anything like that. So that's kind of the reason I got into it because it's highly unregulated and a pretty much free way to fly aviation and not have a huge bill
Totally,
to
man.
fly it. It's the cheapest way to fly, and I also think it's probably the most fun. A lot of these guys that are commercial pilots or fly, fixed wing aircraft, they fly paramotors as well, and they say it's when they want to go out and have fun, that's what they fly. So.
I could totally see that, man.
The closest thing I
I
think that
think
would
it's
be to
so
flying this
badass.
would be like a Trent Palmer type thing where they're flying those bush plane type, those Kit Foxes and stuff like that. That's probably the closest
Yeah.
airplane you can get to flying like a paramotor, I would say, or a helicopter.
Okay.
But
Let me ask you, what's usually the price point to getting into this hobby?
well, it depends on if you get new or used. Like me, I was shopping for used stuff at first because I didn't have a lot of money to do it. But like a new wing costs you between 3,500 and 4,500 right now. Um, a paramotor engine setup, you can get a good used unit for probably 5 grand. You can get a brand new one anywhere from 6,500 on up to 12 grand if you want to spend for some nicer stuff. But there's always guys that
Yeah.
are getting out of the sport. They buy all this new gear and they think they're going to do it. They take some training and then they just don't feel like they're going to do it, or they don't have time to do it. Or there's
Sure.
always guys that have these high expectations, that have these big ambitions. They want to do it, and then once they really start doing it, they just sell their gear cheap because they're getting out of the sport. So that comes along quite a
Yeah,
bit.
I could see that, or they get hurt, or they get scared or
And
something.
so,
I could
yeah, it's
see
just
that.
like guys that buy motorcycles and realize they're not going to do it. It's the same thing with any kind of hobby that people all get all into, and they decide they don't want to do it. And so there's gear deals out there. But you gotta beware too of the bad
Yeah.
deals too, because there's old outdated gear that people try to get rid of, and if you don't know what you're getting into, and you don't know what you don't know, so you could buy some stuff that's just not that great, and it'll still do its job, but in the end, you wanna just it's just better to spend money the first time and get some real nice gear that you're gonna get some good use out of, rather than just buy some half decent gear that's kinda, had a hard life or something, or just not the greatest, and, end up regretting it, and so, I made some poor
Oh,
decisions on gear, and I know all about making wrong choices. So I can definitely say that it's worth it to just buy good gear in the beginning and to be happy with what you have, and you'll have so much more time, good quality time flying. And that's what it's all about is getting in the air, and getting that bird's eye view of, it's a sport that not a lot of people get to enjoy. I mean, it's still relatively new. It's getting a lot more popularity. It's growing a lot every year. So hopefully they don't put some regulations on it because there are some stupid people that give it a bad name by doing stupid stuff and flying where they're not supposed to, and then people see that, and they post it on social media, and they're, oh, people see it and you're like, oh, dumbass, but most people for the most part are pretty respectful for the sport and try to give it a good name and try to give it, overall just give it a good look, so people can respect it and be like, oh, they're just out there, causing trouble and making noise and stuff like that. So, it can be a little bit noise pollution. Those these guys, that just want it to be quiet. It's kind of weird how we're divided with the paraglider guys and the power paraglider guys. They're kind of more like the organic people, at the grocery store. They're eating the healthy food. They just they want the quiet. They don't want to have your engine smoke buzzing around and making a noise for everybody. So they're kind of more like that. But I can see the you know the good points of being free flying. It's a lot more peaceful. It is, and it's a lot more work too. But you also got to be into getting bounced around because you're using thermals to get lift, and those thermals are what create, the when you're riding around in the paramotor, you feel the bumps and getting bounced around and stuff. That's thermals acting up, and so if you don't have a good bump tolerance, is what they call it. A lot of guys won't even fly in that kind of weather because they get bounced around.
so what other things have you done?
I snowboarded for 20 years. Rode dirt bikes a lot growing up. I still like to do a lot of 4x4 stuff. I'm in the process of building up another
Nice.
Samurai right now. So me and my friend have my other
Oh,
friend has
dude,
this.
my brother had a Sammy.
Yeah, and my friend has one too, and we've been talking about maybe taking it down south with us maybe the next time we go down. So to explore, because there's a lot of stuff to
Yeah.
explore down there too, like Acatella Wells and and Glamis and stuff. I don't know how good at doing the sand, but I know that I
Yeah.
like the Acatella Wells and the washes and all those trails
Oh,
back there. There's tons to explore over there. And actually saw a few samurais
yeah.
down there when we were
I've
down
taken
there.
so I got a 4Runner.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've done some Toyota
I
stuff.
got a
There's a lot.
4Runners built. I got an old 3rd gen.
Yeah, my friend's got a nice. There's Toyotas seem to be pretty popular around here right now. I don't know what the deal is. The prices of them are astronomical, but there's pretty good following of them around here.
Yeah.
Seems like that's pretty
I
trendy
bought
right
my
now.
3rd gen, hell, probably about 15 years ago,
Yeah, I've had a
and
third
I've
gen. I have a
since then, I
couple.
put lockers front and rear on it, re-geared it.
Right on.
What's that?
Yeah, I've had a couple third gen Toyota 4Runners.
Yeah.
I had one. My favorite one had the 2.75
Yeah.
speed in it, and that was the one I really liked. But
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah, me and my wife, we both got 4Runners, and my brother had a Suzuki Samurai. He did so much work to that thing. He had on 44s.
oh my gosh, yeah, I'd like to put mine on bigger tires.
Yeah.
I got mine for a song, man. This old guy was like 70 years old and he was building on it for like 5 years and he just got tired of working on it. And then I got it for like 1,800 bucks and it already has like low range shackles and low range springs and lifted. He put all this stuff on it, man. He put an Iski cam and a nice header and did the head and right now, and he got a side by side, like the my side carb kit for it off a Harley. So it's a Harley side draft, and they do a nice little manifold and all this stuff for it. And it was all brand new in the box, and I got all that stuff from him. I paid extra for the carb kit, but I've just been going out here. The weather's just finally getting nicer to where I can actually work on it outside on my carport. And so I've
Dude,
been going through and the heater core was bad. So I had to take the whole dash out and all that. And I'm just getting
right?
it all put back together now finally. So I think that's why I finally gave up because he noticed that the end of the heater core was broken off of it. And I think he knew he had to take the whole dash apart to get to it. And I think he just got
Yeah.
frustrated at that point. But I lucked out and got a
Just
really
defeated him.
nice equipped Samurai that should be a nice little car when I'm done with it.
Dude, they're fun. They're
Yeah.
like little toys, man. The small wheelbase, they're
Yeah.
just too
Yeah.
cool.
They're pretty cool. I mean, I've
Um,
had it. This will be my third one, I think, that I've had. The first one I built was super clean. Then I took it to an off road place and I rolled it, and I was really bummed out. I was drinking at the time. I quit drinking like 25 weeks ago, so I've
yeah.
been
Well,
sober
good.
and making better choices. But seems like every time I screw something up, alcohol had to play a part to play in it. So I
You
just
know, that's a true statement for sure.
yeah yeah. Second wreck on my Harley, and I
But
and I survived it. I was like, man, I should just quit now before I kill myself on the next one. So
hey, I
I
get it. It's the reason I never got an actual street bike, man. It's one of
yeah,
those
and I
things when
quit
you wreck
riding.
those, you don't really come away from them.
Yeah, I quit riding street bikes for quite a long time, then I came back up here and I always wanted a Harley, and a bunch of guys are riding them, so I bought one and kinda got together with a group of guys, and I had a pretty hard wreck on it the first time, and I had a passenger, and luckily I had full coverage on it, so everything was taken care of, but so then I rebuilt the bike and then was still drinking, and I was by myself and coming home, just drank too much, and it was late, and took a turn too wide and just went off into a field, and I don't even remember anything except flying through the air, and luckily, I was wearing my
Yeah.
helmet and my leathers that day, and I
Yeah.
wasn't wearing, my gloves, and so my knuckles were the only thing that really got anything happened to it. The first wreck was a lot the bike wasn't as bad, but my back, I got some really gnarly road rash on my back and on my arm, but, I didn't
Dude.
break any bones or anything, and I wasn't wearing a helmet at that time, but I kept my head up. So, I'm thankful that I didn't get injured worse, and I just, decided that I'm just gonna quit drinking. I don't want something to happen where I just don't make it, and it's not worth it. So,
Hey, I totally understand, man. It's not worth it. It's I love drinking, I love having a good time, but,
yeah,
yeah, after a while, you
and
realize, hey, some things aren't just worth it, so I
yeah, for
get it.
sure, man. I still have a good time not drinking. So, and I'm able to
Yeah.
hang out with friends that still drink and not have it bother me. And so if everyone's got their own choices and if they want to do that, that's fine. It's not for me anymore. And I feel a lot better. I do a lot more, and there's too many fun things to do out there, like fly paramotors and go to the sand dunes and stuff and meet people and
Totally, man.
and so life's
I
short. And
totally
I just
get
want
it,
to enjoy
Tori.
what I have left of it.
I totally get that, my man.
Yeah.
Hell, so you been up in Montana, you doing all the off-roading.
Yeah,
Have you
I
done
do.
any down
I
in
enjoy,
Colorado?
there's a bit of off-road. There's a couple different off-road parks here. One of my good friends actually owns, Mountain Mafia, which is it's in North Idaho, Bonners Ferry, and they have a lot of they're getting to be pretty well known. They do, like, the Insanity Fab Winter Challenge, and then they do a lot of, um, they do some racing and stuff there. They got, like, the big mud pits and stuff, and they do a bit of and they're starting to get a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
of people come up here with some bigger names, and racing and stuff there. Um, his name's
Good.
Ben Spinney, yeah, Mountain Mafia up in North Idaho. And then, there's a Moye Mud Bog, which is usually just a big drunken mud fest there. People just drive
Oh,
through the
yeah.
big mud pits and big party, big party scene, but yeah, but I really like
I've done
enjoy
that down
winter.
in Florida.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, it's kinda like the mud
Oh,
bog
yeah.
down there, they do, like, the swamp race or whatever, the big, tall, lifted trucks, but,
Yep. Or the other quads with the relocated radiators and swampers on them, and you just run through it. It's fun.
that's nuts, dude. But, yeah, I like to do snow
Hell yeah,
wheeling a
man.
lot. That's the kinda four-wheeling I like the off season when I can't fly as much, I like to go up in the mountains with the snow wheeler and just get as deep as you can in the snow, and that's always a lot of
Totally.
fun.
Me so my brother, he's got a couple snowmobiles, and that's what we used to do out in Washington State. We'd take off during the winter, go over Eastern Washington, right off the
Yeah,
over the pass,
yeah.
and, we'd go up there and raise a little bit of hell. It's fun, and I got into snowboarding when I was in Colorado. I mean, I was 39 years old and picked it up, man. It
Oh,
was a
dang.
rough learning curve, I tell
Yeah,
you.
for sure. I started, I was a little bit late, but not super late. I think I skied a couple times with my friends, and then, my one friend had just gotten into snowboarding, and he was really good at it, and he had an extra board now, and so I'd skied a couple times, and he's like, "Hey, you wanna try snowboarding out?" And I got an extra board, and so I strapped that thing on and never looked back on skiing. It took me a couple days of going up there and falling a lot, and then once I picked it up, I caught on real good, and I snowboarded for, like, 20 years, and I just after my neck was messed up, I had a bad back, and I had a compression fracture in my neck probably from snowboarding or motocross. What I don't really know exactly when I got it, but I went to had an MRI for something else. It wasn't related, and like, oh, you broke your neck at some point. There's a compression fracture. And I'm like, oh, that explains a lot. And so, the older
Oh,
I get, the
dude.
more it kind of gives me a little trouble. So I kind of mellowed out on the board sports and the motocross and stuff. But like sitting in the paramotor is
Yeah,
like pretty low impact sport unless you like hit the ground. It's you're just sitting in a chair and using your arms and steering, and so you still get a big adrenaline rush, but you're not. It's not a big like a contact sport where you're just getting beat up all the time. So
totally. Hey,
like
you'll get a kick out
motorcycles
of
and
this
stuff,
all
your head's always getting bobbed around. Your body's just taking a beating if you're doing that stuff. And off roading, I still do it, but I just I'm not balls to the walls when I'm going. I'm just kind of just cruising around slower and stuff. So.
I was gonna see if I could pan over. I got my snowboard mounted to the wall right there.
Oh, yeah, right on. Yeah, I don't know if
Yeah.
I have any more. The only snowboards I have here, I was gonna make some skis for my trike. There's a guy that did some, and it worked really well, and so I thought maybe if I'm just not big on going out and freezing my butt off. I like to fly, but I do it in the wintertime a bit, but, it seems like the older I get, the
Yeah.
less I do it in the winter, but, yeah, it's cool to just put skis on and go to some places where you can't really take off of otherwise, but,
Yeah, totally, man. Just like when I was out in Colorado, because I got an Epic Pass, like, really cheap out there.
okay.
So I'd hit Keystone, Breckenridge, and all of
Yeah.
those, and absolutely love it. Me and my wife, we still try to get it in at least once a season now.
Yeah, I do miss snowboarding. I do like that whole thing is a lot of fun. I had a lot of good times snowboarding
Yeah.
and a lot of good memories. But
Totally. Once you get all the gear, it's not too bad.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. Once you got all the
one
gear and
thing, like,
everything,
for
but
you
the
yeah,
closest good mountains
for
around
you
here, we got a small
off-roading
mountain here in Montana, Turner, but it was a bad season this year, man. There wasn't much snow this year. And the other good one was Schweitzer in North Idaho is a real big mountain. It's really getting big, but it used to be super cheap to go there and ride and have a good time. And now it's just so commercialized and it's blown up so big. It's just, I can't even afford a lift ticket. I don't think if I wanted to go up there, it's just ridiculous. So that's why
yeah.
I just do other
That's
stuff,
like when we be in military, our tickets are only like $150 for an entire season,
Oh
so
yeah,
it's
that's
it's
awesome.
it's
Yeah,
super
that's
cheap.
totally worth it.
Yeah. For a day pass, you can't even get that, so,
Yeah, yeah, I
um
didn't. Yeah, that has
hell,
benefits for
so,
sure, man.
have you ever done any off-roading down in, like, Colorado?
I haven't been to Colorado much at all. No.
One thing you would love, especially for a guy who loves the mountains, you love the scenery, the San Juan Mountains down
Okay.
Ouray, Colorado is one of the coolest trips I've ever done.
I have seen that one trail, that Bear Mountain Trail. It's really steep and crazy. I think it's in Colorado where that Jeep like falls down the side of the
Yeah,
hill.
yeah, it's Black Bear.
Yeah, Black Bear. That looks intimidating, but I wouldn't mind trying it one day. I mean, you just got to be have
Funny
a
thing
head
is,
on your
man, Black
shoulder.
Bear yeah, Black Bear's nothing major. If you've done any off-roading, can deal with anything kinda off camber, there's one little spot,
Yeah.
and what really gets kinda hairy is you're going down a trail and you're overlooking Telluride
Okay.
down at the bottom, and it's just switchbacks
Yeah.
all the way down.
Right. There's a lot
A
of
couple
roads
years
like that.
back, there was a guy Yeah, there a couple years back, there was a guy, I think he got out of his Jeep to help someone else to spot someone else. I guess his e-brake didn't work that good.
Okay.
Down a mountain, ejected his girlfriend, killed his dog. There's video of somebody halfway down Black Bear Pass, and they got that Jeep
Oh,
just
and that's
rolling
the one that
straight
goes
down it.
rolling by 'em? Yeah, I've seen that video, it's been
Yep.
pretty viral, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's gnarly. That's what definitely gave Black Bear, a little more extra cred as being
Yeah, yeah,
dangerous,
I've
but
seen that
it
video flying by and the yeah, it just totally destroyed that thing.
yeah. But it's such a beautiful area though, because if you go to, like, Ouray, Colorado, it's a little bit up north of Telluride, and it's like a cool mountain town. You got rooftop bars, you got, what do you got? You got hot springs right there, and then basically right out of town, you got an awesome area where you can camp, and about 300-degree views of just rock cliffs around you,
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
and yeah, and you can spend a week up there hitting all the different passes like Imogene Pass. You can go over the $1 Million Highway, go down to Silverton. They got the train that comes up from Durango each day. So you got the old locomotive that comes through there.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, it's cool as hell. If you go there like from mid-July till probably September, then the passes are open and it's just absolutely amazing. But
Yeah, maybe one of these I'll make it down
yeah,
that way. I know it's not too awful
yeah,
far from
man.
here.
Hopefully you do. I need to make it up to Montana and do some off-roading up there.
Yeah, there's a
It's
lot of
just
cool
beautiful country.
it is beautiful, there's some cool spots. A lot of old logging roads and stuff and old mines and old like, that's what we like to do is go explore and find, like, old structures and stuff and just kinda mess around, look finding stuff, and old artifacts. I collect, like,
Totally.
old beer cans and even though I don't drink anymore, I like to find, like, super old beer cans and just old bottles and stuff, and so I usually just go out and dig around, and there's gold
Oh
pan in
yeah.
here, so this creek that comes through Libby used to be big on gold in the 1800 1800, 1900s, and they dredged it, and a bunch of gold was found, and so there's still quite a bit of remnants of gold found in the creek. You can go down there and pan and use a sluice or whatnot and find gold and stuff, so it's kind of another little hobby I do is just mess around, do that stuff, but
Nice, man.
there's always something to
Hell,
do around here.
totally, man. You gotta have your hobbies. I got
Yeah.
so many in between my four-wheelers, now I got the side by side, definitely no, I shoot bows, I used to play bass. Yeah, I got a ton, man. So
Oh,
it's good.
yeah,
At
I
least
got
you're
way
into
too
everything and it's fun.
yeah, that same sounds like me. I just got way too many hobbies, but, paramotor is definitely top of my list and, and then off-roading, but,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
I love it, man. You gotta have your passion, you gotta have your hobbies for it. So let me ask, is there anything else that you would love to share with anybody about, um, yourself or, some paragliding?
what's that again? I'm sorry, I was
I said, is there anything else you'd love to share with everybody, about yourself or your, sport?
well, yeah, the paramotoring thing, man, it's a really good way to meet people too because it seems like, when you're flying, it's a lot like everything else. You've got you got people that just wanna come together because of the sport. All the friends that I have, a lot of the close friends that I have are from paragliding and paramotoring that I met that I still have good friendships with, and I meet all these guys at these fly-ins, kinda like, we have these gatherings. There's one in Sand Lake, Oregon. When I had, like, 12 flights, I think, under my belt when I went to that first fly-in and met a bunch of people that I still fly with today, and that was, like, 6 years ago. So it's just a good way to, make friends and, have something great in common everybody loves to do. It's a real mellow sport, like, there's no drama or any I mean, I guess every sport has some sort of little bit of drama, but I mean, most of it's just good times hanging out with people that like to do the same thing you like to do, and I guess if you're
Totally.
into flying, it's never too late to do it. There's people that are older that do it. There's a lot of younger kids who are kind of getting into it, and it seems like every time I fly, if I'm somewhere, someone always has someone I've gotten people that follow me, and I had a sticker on my car, and I had a cop follow me home one day, and he's like, "I'm not trying to, like, freak you out or anything, but I saw that sticker on your car. I just wanna know more about the paragliding stuff," and so everybody's interested. Me and my buddy were flying one time over in Enumclaw over by Washington, and we landed, and
Yeah,
there was a cop sitting there, and we're like, "Oh, hope someone didn't call," because there's always a Karen that wants to call about something, it seems like, but I've never had
sure.
any negative. I had one guy come to the airport one time when he was drunk on whiskey, I could tell, and he's like, you scared my horse, and it went through the fence, and I had to go call the vet and all this stuff." And I kept talking to him about it, but he just said that, I looked at my footage on my GoPro. I always have a camera, and I couldn't see anything on my camera where it did something like that. So I don't really know, but that was the only one time in 6 years I've had any negative. But like I was saying, that
Yeah.
cop was there. He talked to us for like half an hour about flying and where he could get training and everything. So it's a one of those kind of sports that everybody just kind of that sees it is really thinks it's super cool. Like I've never had anybody, oh, that's stupid. Why are you doing it? It's always a positive response to the flying. And
Totally.
I just like to, make people happy when I'm flying. If I see somebody and it's a lot of little kids are like waving and stuff, I'll turn around and fly low by them, and give them a better view of it and stuff. And one time I was
Yeah.
flying out here in Montana, there was an Amish school out kind of by the airport where I fly. And there's one day I seen all these kids out there and they have a big field I usually fly over quite a bit. And they're all out there by their school waving and stuff. So I landed and went out and had them all come up and check it out and explain to them everything about it. And they're really interested. It was really cool to show them, it's kind of like a show and tell for the kids and showed them everything and then took off again. And it was pretty cool. So I don't know. It's a really neat hobby and it's fun to share it with people. And it really when I'm having a bad day, anything kind of stressful, I just go fly, and it just kind of makes all those things go away. And it's kind of my happy place to get up
I
there in
hear it,
that
man.
chair, and it's weird too because I'm kind of afraid of heights. Like in certain scenarios, like I don't like getting on cliffs, and I don't like high ladders and stuff. But when I get in my paramotor, I don't really feel a fear of heights in it because I know I'm not going to fall out. I guess just like a fear of falling is basically more than a fear of heights. So when I get in that thing,
Yeah.
I don't really fear the heights part of it at all. I love the view. So I always love to get up and see a different perspective of something.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you got to take bearings. Like if you fly, especially in a new place when you're flying and first thing I do is I get up there and I take a look around and make sure that I can see my surroundings and get some big landmarks so I can figure out where I'm at when I come back. Because that's, sometimes, especially in an unfamiliar area, if you fly far away from where you took off of and you're not familiar with it, you got to kind of like check it out. And a lot of these guys use like, they use their phones and put a map on there. But I do have my phone on my reserve has like a Velcro spot where I can set my phone if I want to use some sort of an app on there. But most of the time I'm just
Okay.
flying by the seat of my pants, just doing like the old school pilots used to do before they had that stuff, like, well, how did they all fly? A lot of these guys flew
Yeah.
back in the day when we didn't have instruments and didn't have any kind of things to help them along like we do nowadays. So, you just take reference of stuff and that's how you figure it out. But
Totally get it, man. That's how we do out in the dunes too. We get a
yeah,
lot
for
of
sure.
people that come out there and they don't know where they're going. It's like you go hit the highest point, look where the mountains are, go to the
Uh-huh.
railroad tracks.
Yeah,
When in
exactly.
doubt, head east.
Mhm. You gotta figure out which way's north, which way you came from, and just, yeah, find a reference point. All those washes are up against that railroad track. One of my friends actually landed on one of those trains while it was going out there by the wash road.
No shit.
Yeah, it was great.
Wow.
Yeah, you're not supposed to do
That's
it,
wild.
but yeah, he did it, and there's video of it, but it was nuts. Nothing
Is
I'd
it
try
really?
doing, but yeah, it was pretty crazy.
No shit. I'll have to check out YouTube so if I can find that. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah,
Or hell,
pretty
if you got
nuts.
it, send me the link. I'd love to see that. That's
Yeah,
wild.
I'd have to look it up and see if I could figure it out. A lot of it's just on, I think Brad Roper. He's the guy from Southern
Brad.
Pyramid. Look him up. I think it's on one of his, probably, I think he was the one that did it, or one of his buddies did it. But a
Okay.
Southern Utah paramotor, Brad Roper, he's got a ton of good footage, and that guy is a hell of a pilot. He's got some. If you want to see some wow factor flying, that guy's the one that does it. He does like some crazy barrel rolls and sats and blowing smoke the whole time, so it looks like a corkscrew coming down, and just all kinds of really good flying. He's just a really good pilot.
That's awesome. And who's the
But
people down in SoCal that you link up with?
Yeah, I think that was all the Brad Roper crew and just a bunch of people from Salton Sea. So about 100 different pilots gathered at Salton Sea this year. And so a bunch of those guys just kind of branched off and
Glamis.
to the dunes. I know the ITV guys. There's a ITV is a brand of wing. I fly one. It's called a Piper, but they have a bunch of different nice wings. But the guys, the factory pilots that fly those wings are really good pilots, and they're out of France. And and I think their whole last year they were, or not last year, the year before last, they were in Glamis, and I hooked up with those guys, and they were shooting a video for their company. But they were also, I think they came out there this year too, and they were out there flying. So there was just a mixture of a bunch of different people that all got together
Yeah.
and all met out there at Glamis and decided to fly. And it was also another cool thing that happened there is there was three guys that I know. One guy's Mike Milliron Jr. He's an instructor, and he's one of the guys that I know. He's a mobile instructor, so he has a a Ford van that's all converted, and he has all his gear in that thing, and he'll come to your town and to give you instruction, and teach you and everything.
That's cool.
So him
Just goes mobile and
yeah, so he's the only mobile instructor that I know. Um, and he's
okay,
usually down in Southern California or that area for quite a time in the winter. I think he's still down there right now, actually. But him and another guy,
okay,
another friend of mine, Travis Arquette, who lives in Seattle area, and he's another really good pilot. And another guy, I can't remember his name, but the three of those guys went camping. So they all grabbed their gear. They went around the lake. They went to two different hot springs, and then and then from there they stayed the night somewhere. Then they flew over to Glamis, and then from Glamis, they stayed the night there at Wash 3 with all the other guys, and then in the morning, on Saturday
yeah,
morning, they departed, and I didn't know they were there. I knew they were gonna go camping, but I didn't know exactly where they were, and I knew they were gonna camp in Glamis because he said something about it. So, I just took off and went to Glamis and didn't even know if I'd see him. That Saturday morning, when I went over to make that road over to Gecko Road, I saw the 3 of them cruising across the dunes, so I kicked it into high gear. There's a speed bar system, so you can adjust your trims on the top part of
okay.
the risers, and you can also use your feet and push a bar with your feet, and that also changes the wing. Both those things will speed your wing up, and so you can fly faster.
Oh, shit.
And so a
Very
lot of
cool.
guys that have trikes don't have speed bar because it's kind of a hard deal to set up on the trike. I got it hanging from a bungee cord so I can get my feet on it, and then once I push it, the bungee just kind of goes with it, and then it brings it back when I want to not use it. It just kind of hangs there. So I'm able to use speed bar in a trike, which there's only a couple guys I've known that have that setup. I was watching some YouTube stuff from some guys in Europe, and that's how I saw it. And then I just copied how they did it. But anyway,
Okay.
I saw my buddies taking off, and so I caught up with them and flew with them on there as their way out of Glamis because they had full tanks of fuel and they were just heading back to Salton Sea at that point. And so I caught up with them and flew with them for a little bit. And then once they were kept going straight, I just veered off and went up Gecko Road, and that's when I made my morning run up Gecko. But it was pretty fun. It was a good flight. But those
Dude,
guys went
that's super cool, man.
278 miles, I think, round trip with their whole trip. And then one guy had all the gas stations marked out on his gaggle, which is basically a flying app for paramotors. So basically, you can look at it and it'll tell you where the gas stations are. You can mark waypoints. You can do all sorts of stuff with it. It basically tracks the route you take, and it can show you where you flew and all that stuff. And so it's just a
Nice.
real helpful app to have when you're flying. And so, yeah, he just basically knew where all the gas stations were. They just carried extra oil so they could mix fuel with the oil, and they just land
Yeah.
at the gas station and mix up their tank and fly on to the next spot. So that's
Hell
the more
yeah,
stuff that
man.
I'm more interested in doing. I'm really interested in doing more of the para camping. So you can get to some remote spots that cars can't even get to. You know what I mean? Just really
Totally.
neat to get out there and look at the stars in some, country setting or any setting, and just, get to some really cool remote spot, wouldn't otherwise be able to get to. Um,
Yeah.
So it's just another
That's
way to
good, man.
have some good fun.
Yeah. No, I'm totally sold on it, man. I'm gonna have to start looking into these and getting one. I would totally love to do it.
Yeah.
Well, hell, Tori, if anything, well, next time you're back out in Glamis, let me know. And hell, come crash over in our camp, whatever you want to do, man. I'd just love to see what you're doing and at least get to meet you in person.
For sure, man. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. If you got any buddies that are planning in more trips the rest of the season, let me know. I'd love to see what they're
Okay, yeah,
doing and try to organize something.
I'll keep in touch with them for sure, and I'll talk to Brad Roper and see what he has to say about it, like maybe organizing some sort of a sand car and paramotor, like, you know, ventured get together type of merge our two sports and maybe do some sort of an event down there. That'd be kind of cool, I think. And
Yeah, it'd
but
be
I
super
think those
fun.
guys are mostly do come down there, like I'd say, like first week in February is usually when Salton Sea goes off, and it's usually about the time I
Okay.
can come down there. I don't really have the means to make it down south more than once a year, it seems like. So, um,
Yeah. No, I
but it is
understand these
fun for
trips, and
sure,
then just a lot to get a hold of. Yeah. No, super cool, man. Well, Tori, hey, thank you very much for coming on here, man, and sharing your story.
It was my
Is
pleasure.
is badass.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
of
always
course. Thank you. Is there any way if anyone's trying to follow you on the gram or anything, how they should contact you?
I'm just Torry Pope on Instagram. I think it's just lowercase letters. I don't do a lot of posts on
Okay.
Instagram, mostly just Facebook these days, but I do have a page on Instagram. And I have a
Okay.
YouTube channel too
Well,
that's just
whichever
Torry
one.
Pope, but I haven't posted on that YouTube channel for quite some time. But I think I'm gonna maybe update some stuff on there. But yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I totally love to see this stuff. When you threw it on the Glamis, little, what was it? Their Instagram or Facebook. I mean,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
good
it was
stuff,
just
man.
kind of a
Everyone loved
chance
it.
chance thing too. I mean, it was just I saw the post that someone had made with the gliders flying by. I think it was a Sunset Hill they were like stopping on and then flying past it, and then I recognized some of those guys
Yeah,
from when I was there, and so I posted, "Oh, yeah, I was there that same weekend," and then you guys reached out, and so
yeah,
it
that
was
was
then
me.
I had that other video that I just had on my phone. I'm sure I've got some other videos once I edit them on my other stuff, I'll post them up, but, yeah, it
Yeah,
was a
I got
great
another
time.
video of that same encounter, that I should probably post up there because that was just a quick one, you guys coming
Yeah.
through. But yeah, I got another one of, another good shot on there. I'll have to throw up on there.
Okay, yeah, once I get some more stuff edited, I'll definitely add it to the page and, share it with everybody.
Yeah, totally. Even for this, podcast, send me some of the stuff you got, and I can try and, loop it all in here so people can see what
Okay.
you're doing.
Yeah, we'll see that. Yeah, I can get you some pictures, I think.
Cool. All right, well, hey, well, Tori, well, thank you very much, man. I appreciate you having on here or coming on, and, you have a good time.
You too, my friend. It was a good time. Appreciate it.
Great. Thank you, Tori. Take care.
Alright, you too. Have a good day.
Oh, also, when you hit stop on this, let it sit for a minute for it all to upload, and then it's fully done.
Okay, man.
I
No
realize I
worries.
gotta tell people, like, well, don't just exit out of the app yet, or it won't upload.
I got you. Alright, man.
Awesome. Thanks, brother. Bye.
Alright, talk to you later.